and welcome to episode 9 of the She.Must.Knit podcast. My name is Erin, and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you guys had a great week. I had a pretty decent week. Last weekend we had a long weekend here, so we had a holiday Monday. And long weekends just always throw off my schedule. We had friends stay over, which was lovely, and Dennis was home on the Monday, which was lovely, and we got lots of work done because the weather was beautiful. But I don't think I picked up my knitting at all that weekend. And because he was home Monday and Avery was home Monday, no work got done. I feel like I had a very unproductive week, even though I know I got stuff done. It's just like everything got moved ahead one day, and if I don't have a good Monday, I feel like I don't have a good week. But I did get some knitting done this week, so I do have some things to share with you. So let's get started. I'm gonna have a quick sip of my tea, and then I have a finished object for you. I'm drinking another Seven Sisters tea. I think it's called Cream of Avalon. It's kind of like a fancy Earl Grey. So if you like Earl Greys, you might like it. I really like it, especially with a little bit of cream. So, finished object. I have finished my little sock arms. I am so glad this is done because I've mentioned I'm planning on making this, well, I've made it, for my friend's little girl's 3rd birthday that's coming up in June, and it will be done in time. I just have to find some little extras to add in with it, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So this is the sweater here. So I've got the body done. And I think last time I showed it to you, I was just on the first arm, which is this one, and I've now completed the second arm, as you can see. I mentioned before with the sizing, my sizing is all over the place with this sweater. My intention was to cast on the size 4 because she's 3, and I made the size 4 for Avery, who is 6, and it still fits her. So I figured the size 4 would get lots of wear. And then when I split for the not when I split for the arms, but when I split for the front and back, so right about here, my stitches weren't working, and when I counted, I realized I had cast on for the size 3. And I decided to leave it and then just adjust the arms. So what I did is I did the arm shaping and like the length that you knit here. I did that for the size 4, so the arm should be big enough, and so therefore the arm size is also for the size 4. So I'm hoping that the width won't matter as much because the arms will fit and the length will fit. I did add extra length to both the arms and the body. I also had talked about how I added a back placket to this size. The pattern does come with instructions for the back placket. It just adds a little bit of extra room for the neck, but the pattern only includes instructions for it up to size 18 months. And because this sweater is a crew neck, it does sit higher up. I didn't want any possibilities that this would not fit over her head, so I decided to just adjust the pattern and add the placket into the size, I guess, 3 or 4 years. It was very easy to do. You just kind of look at the instructions for the smaller sizes, and you kind of just find your halfway point from when you're working up the back, find your halfway point, and you kind of make some adjustments there. So if you have the pattern and you can read what the placket instructions are for the smaller sizes, you should be able to add it to the larger sizes. So I did that. I also did a modified neckline. Instead of doing about a 1/2 inch of ribbing, I picked up my stitches, I knit a row, and then I cast off on the next row using the somewhat stretchy bind off where you knit 1 stitch and then put it back onto the left needle, knit the 2 together, and then put that stitch back onto the left needle, knit 2 together through the back loop, and just keep going. So I find that that gives kind of a nice finished edge, and it does have a little bit of give, so I did that for the neckline. I mentioned last time how I was doing the sleeves and how it looked kind of, the stitches were kind of uneven and a little sloppy looking here, and I told you that the designer, Stephanie Lotvin, has you do this extra little step to get this really nice finished looking set-in sleeve. So this is picked up and done with short rows and knit down. It's not a set-in sleeve, but it looks like one. And she has you do this step to give you a really nice finished look. Like, look how nice and set in that looks. And I had said how I would do the other sleeve and leave it as is so you could see the difference. So I did that. So I do technically have one more thing to do before this sweater is like finished, but it will just take like 2 minutes. So this is the sleeve before. Can you see that? That is how it looks before you do that little extra step. And that is how it looks after. The little step is totally worth it. I remember when I was testing this pattern to begin with, so I was one of her testers when she originally released it. And when I got to the arms and I was reading and I saw that little step, I'm like, why am I doing this little step? This seems like unnecessary extra time that it's going to take, right? Why can't I just, pick up and do what I would normally do? So of course I'm stubborn and I did that, and then I figured out very soon that does not work and that I should just listen to the designer who probably tested all that stuff out herself. And I did it the way that she had you do it in the pattern, and totally worth it. Like, look how nice. That's one of my favorite parts of this pattern, is just how nice and finished that looks. So I had some issues, not so much issues, I had some small challenges with the sleeves. I had mentioned how I had one ball each of the yarns I was using. So the body I did with Knit Picks Hawthorne Speckle, and then for the sleeves I chose a ball of their striping sock yarn Felici. And Felici comes in 50-gram balls. And I figured I should have enough with one ball of each to do the size I was going to do. And technically I did. I had exactly this much yarn left. So that's what I have left of the Hawthorne Speckle, and that's what I have left of the Felici. So after I finished the first sleeve, I wasn't sure, looking at what I had left, if I was going to have enough to do the full sleeve on the other side and without running out. And I did not want to chance running out because, like, what would I do, right? So I decided, I don't know if you can tell, do you see anything that stands out as different? I decided when I got down to this area right here that I was going to use a different yarn for the cuff. So this is a whole different yarn. This is actually a York Westminster, I don't know, where is it? I think I have it, just a minute. Oh, it's right here. West Yorkshire Spinners, that's what I thought. Okay, so I had some of this left over from another Avery project from years ago. And I thought the color was close enough that if I did the cuff with that, just in case if I ran out on the other side or the stripes didn't line up or look like they matched this, if I could throw this on the end of the sleeve, it would look good enough. And I think I'm really glad I did that. When I did this sleeve, I'm actually very, very proud of myself because a couple of episodes, I think it was when I started the Pattern hat, and I had started it with the gray, and I ended up restarting it with a different yarn color. And I told you, a public service announcement, if ever you're knitting and something is just not sitting right with you and you keep telling yourself it's fine, stop and fix whatever is bothering you. I followed my own advice, and I'm very glad I did. So I had started this sleeve, and you can see how this orange here, there's more of it than this orange here, right? So initially that didn't bother me. I was like, okay, the stripes will be a little bit off, but that's fine. But what happened is when I got down to, you do all these short rows and then you start working in the round again. And when I started working in the round again, this color here was down here, and so it kind of traveled around the whole circumference of the arm, even like under the armpit here where the stitches are picked up. And I really liked how on this side these colors kind of were the cap, and then the blue was down here. It really stood out on this side, having the orange down at the bottom here. It really stood out as just totally different. Like, it didn't look, I didn't like how it looked. And because I'm knitting this for my friend who's not a knitter, and I don't think, sometimes non-knitters don't get those little subtleties where I was like, well, it's a handmade. Did you hear that? That's Mr. T running around like a horse. Hopefully he'll go sit and watch some birds or something. But because she's not a knitter, sometimes they don't get those subtleties where things aren't going to be matching and things aren't going to be the same because it's a handmade item, right? So that, it bothered me that the orange came down here and it really stood. Okay, apparently he's not going to go watch birds. We'll see. Hopefully he'll be quiet. Oh my goodness, he sounds, I swear, he sounds like a horse when he's running around. He's so loud. So yes, I decided to rip back. So I had only done, I think I was about 8 rows. I was about where this dark blue stripe ends. I ripped back up to here and I cut my yarn and I kind of cut out a little bit so that the blue started earlier, so it matches a little better. And then I continued on. So I was very pleased with myself that I fixed. I mean, it wasn't a problem. It's not like I fixed a mistake, but it was just something that was bothering me, and I knew if I finished it, I would look at it and it would bother me, and then it would be kind of too late, right? So I kind of fixed it right in the beginning, and I'm very happy I did. Now, as you go down the sleeve, I did run out of yarn. So I had managed to get the stripes to kind of match. So they do look like they're almost in the same sequence. They're in the same sequence. They're almost in the same place. There's a little more orange than there is here, but I don't think that's going to be too noticeable. But I don't know if you can tell. So on the sleeves, here, let's line up those stripes. Okay, so they pretty much match. And then when I got down to here, my orange ran out. So this underneath is my second sleeve. So you can see my orange ran out because the ribbing up here on the first sleeve, the ribbing starts in the orange, and on this one, the ribbing starts on the blue. So I ran out of the orange, and I had to kind of piece together from some of the stuff I cut out from other parts. And so the cuffs are different. The first cuff, the ribbing starts on the orange and goes to the dark blue and then the pink that I added. On the second cuff, I ran out of the orange and I had to take pieces from other bits, and so it ends up being this lighter blue and then the pink. I think that's okay. Something like that I don't think is going to stand out as being too obvious for my friend, and like I said, I'm really glad that I brought in that other yarn for the cuff because I think that kind of ties it all in together so that when you're looking at it as a whole, it doesn't stand out too much. So I'm pleased I did what I did, and I'm pleased with the sweater. I did leave my little markers in because I just wanted to kind of touch on when I do my sleeves. I pretty much, for any pattern that I knit, whether it's for myself or for Avery or for another child or for anybody, any garment, I pretty much never follow the sleeve decreases that are written in the pattern. I figured out a way that works for me, and I find, because sometimes I find sleeves and patterns, like, they'll decrease so quickly and then you have, like, they get very narrow, or they don't crease quickly enough and then you have these really big baggy sleeves. And I have just found from doing sweaters over and over again, what I like is to decrease, like, right after you join in the underarm. Every 6 to 10 rows, do a decrease until you get down to a width that you're comfortable with, and then you just keep going. So what I do is I just put in little pins, the little bulb markers, every time I do a decrease, because sometimes I miss one and it's like the 11th row or, you know, the 5th row. So I just put in a marker whenever I do a decrease so that on the second sleeve I can just count from the first sleeve when I did my decreases and just do them in the same spot. So it's just an easy way where I don't really have to keep track. I just decrease approximately every 6 to 10 rows depending on the pattern. That's how I do my sleeves. But yeah, so this is all done, and so I might wash it first just to kind of even out the ribbing. We'll see. I think it's fine as is. I'm going to look for some extra, maybe some little leggings to go with it or something, and just put together a nice little gift bag for my friend, and then I'll hopefully be able to see her in June and give it to her. Now, last week, I had shown my progress on the Fuzzy Mitten Mystery Toy Knit Along, and I had mentioned how maybe I would give that toy set along with the sweater as part of the gift. So, progress on the toy knit along. I did not work on it at all this week. This week, like I said, with the long weekend, totally threw me off my work and knitting schedule, and I just did not get to the things I wanted to get to. So I have decided, last time I mentioned how I was thinking of doing a second one because Mr. T just basically kept stealing the toy and had adopted it for his own. And I'm definitely making a second one now. I brought it to show you because, like, there is no saving this now. Like last time, I think there was like a few little pulls that I could have pulled in and fixed it and given it to my friend as part of the gift. There is no saving this now. Like, it's just, he loves this. Now, I haven't sewed up the top yet. A few people suggested, oh, you know, you should get some catnip and put it inside, and I think I will do that. So I just keep stuffing the stuffing back in. He doesn't really go for the stuffing. It's more he likes to just carry it around and like kick it and stuff. So next time I'm at a pet store supply that has some loose catnip, I think I'm going to pick some up and put some in there. And yeah, this is just going to be his little toy. So I did not have time to re-knit this body and do the next clue. And so the next clue was the head and the arms. And I did look in the thread, and I still don't know. Like, people are still guessing that it might be a unicorn, but the head doesn't just like automatically like give it away. Like, it's not like, oh yes, that is going to be like a horse or a unicorn. Like, it almost kind of looked like a dragon head as well. So I have no idea. Yesterday the final clue came out, so I'm hoping next week I have to reknit the body, and then I have to do the head and arms, which was clue 4, and then I have to do the final clue, which will finish it all up. And I'm hoping to have that for you next week. I am not going to look at the thread from here on in. I know I said in the beginning I wasn't going to do that, and then I did it, and I kind of liked seeing what everybody was doing, and I think at this point I'm not going to look. I kind of have guesses as to what direction it's going in, and I kind of just want to make it now and then just see, and then I'll go in and see what everybody else did. So yes, I'm hoping to have that for you next week. Hopefully I'll have a bit more time this weekend and this coming week, so we'll see. So that's going to come up. The other things that I have been working on have been my May sweater, which I showed you last week, and then I think last week I also said I was going to cast on the Impossibly Possible socks as my next project for the ColorWORK-IT KAL that we're doing in the Bling Your String group. And I did. I cast those on. I got them started. I'm not super far into them, but I do like how my color choices are working up. So this is my progress on these. So these are the Impossibly Possible socks by Lisa Ross. And Lisa Ross has donated some patterns for the KAL as prizes. She's donated a full collection of hers as part of the grand prize, like the final prize, and then also some individual prizes for like mid-KAL chat. Like, I'm gonna just pull from the participation prizes. And so I really wanted to cast on one of her sock patterns, and so I cast on these Impossibly Possible socks. And I decided to use, in her pattern, she uses a gradient set and then a contrast color. I've decided to use a self-striping, so this is White Birch Fiber Arts, and a like a semi-solid. So this was a 50-gram Luette gem that I got in a yarn box shipment, and it came in like a really pale celery kind of green, and I overdyed it. And I had mentioned last week how, because the ties were so tight, and I forgot to check that I got all these like little blips of that's the original color basically, is like this really, really pale green. And I was just going to see how it worked, and if I didn't like it, I'd re-dye it, but I didn't really want to do that. And now that I've started knitting it, I'm fine with those little blips. So this is my progress so far. This is what I have. And you can really see the pattern on the screen, I think. So this is how it's working up. I'm pretty happy with it. Now, when I had started down here, it almost seemed like every row I was getting a different color. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this is self-striping. Like, White Birch pretty much always does self-striping. And I had to look on Ravelry and look up the color of this yarn. So this one that she did, it's called Hope. I had to look it up and just see if anybody had knit it up to like make sure it was self-striping. I think this pattern would still work if it wasn't, but I really wanted blocks of color behind this contrast color. And it is a self-striping. There's stripes, so one of the wide stripes, because White Birch Fiber Arts tends to have wider stripes, and so I find they really work well for when you're doing color work type socks. So this light blue that you see is one stripe, and then this here is kind of the tip of another stripe. So it's kind of edged in purple, and then there's colors in between, and then there'll be another band of purple. So I kind of just started in the middle of the stripe, which is why it didn't really look like it was striping. But I am almost through one chart repeat. The chart repeats are over 20 rows long, but they're very simple. This is done with mosaic knitting, and I think this would be a really good introduction if you want to try something that's like color work but you're not ready for stranding yet. I think mosaic knitting is a really good start because you're using two colors, but you're only using one color per row. And the way that this pattern works, and other slip stitch patterns that I've done have kind of been similar, where it's like 2 rows you're using one color, and then for the other the next 2 rows you're using the other color, but you're slipping the opposite color to get your patterning. And I put markers in. She did suggest that you could put markers in. So these are kind of like the pattern repeats. And I'm just finding this very slightly more than mindless. Like, it's not totally mindless because it's not a vanilla sock, but it's also not, I don't really have to concentrate on it. Like, each row I just kind of have to look at the chart, and once I do the first section up to the first marker, you kind of get it, and you can kind of do that all the way around. And then the second row is always the same, so I just repeat what I did. I basically just knit and slip what I did on the previous round for the next row, so that second row goes very quickly, and then the next row I kind of look, okay, got it, and then so it's actually a pretty quick little pattern. I am making these for my friend for her birthday. I think she will like them. I think they're working up kind of like the these stripes and stranded socks that I did a couple of weeks ago, where they're not a really fitted sock. I probably could have gone one size down. It's hard to know with color work because it's not as like there's not as much give to it, but they do fit me comfortably in a kind of like hanging out around the house kind of way. So I think those will be fine for her. The heel that is written into the pattern is a toe up gusset and heel flap type heel. I think it looked like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking of just doing, I know there was definitely a gusset in there, and I'm thinking of just doing a German short row like I did with the stripes and stranded socks. We'll see. If I get there and it totally doesn't work, then I will go back to whatever the pattern said. But I am enjoying this pattern, and I think if you wanted to try some color work type socks, something like this would be really good. So any type, so going back to the KAL, any type of color work project, big or small, can work for this KAL. So it can be stranded knitting, it can be intarsia, I'm allowing brioche, I'm allowing mosaic knitting, obviously. As long as you are manipulating more than like at least 2 colors in some way that is not just changing colors to make stripes, you can include it. And I'm starting to gather a nice little prize pack for the KAL. I mentioned how Lisa Ross donated some patterns. I think I'm going to do a sock set as part of the prize. And then I had something come in that I ordered especially for the knit along prize. So I've been following on Instagram Steph, and she has a podcast. I think it's Knitting Samurai and her guys or something, but she had a hiatus for quite a while, and she came back recently, and I was so happy to see her back. If you enjoy podcasts that are just kind of happy and uplifting, and you know, the person who's hosting is just, you know, bubbly and full of energy, you, I think, would really enjoy her podcast. I'm so glad she started again. And she's also started a little Etsy shop with some stitch markers. And I know you might be thinking, but hey, Erin, you make stitch markers. Why do you need to buy stitch markers? She makes the stitch markers that are like the little rings with the beads, so the very simple ones. I don't like making those, so I don't mind supporting people who do. And so I did. I bought a little set. I bought a whole bunch for myself and some for gifts, and because she does these kind of fandom type sets, so I got a Princess Bride set, and I got some for some swaps and some presents, and so I decided to get a set for these swaps. So I picked out this little rainbow set, and I will put in a bigger picture of them so you can see them more clearly. But this set is going into the prize, the little prize pool for the final prize for the ColorWORK-IT KAL. So it will go at least until I think the end of June or July, I forget. I'll link the KAL information in the thread. But the final prize is going to have those as part of it. If you like little ring stitch markers, I encourage you to go check out her shop. She did recently a free shipping to Canada if you spent so much, and I so appreciate when sellers do something like that because shipping to Canada is bonkers. So I've been admiring her stitch markers for a while, watching her post on Instagram, and I decided that's it. I'm just going to order a bunch and get free shipping. So thank you, Steph, for offering that for Canadian customers. So that is my next progress, my work in progress, and my final one is the May. And I had talked about this before, how I really want to get this done by the end of May because there are several KALs I want to enter this into, and last week I said, okay, next week I need to have at least 5 or 6 colors or 5 or 6 transitions done in this sweater because I'm doing a faded version. Well, like I said, that long weekend just totally threw me off my knitting game, so I didn't get as much done as I wanted to, but I am happy with where I am. I'm just gonna have to really move it this next week if I want to finish it basically by I have a week left. I need to finish this in a week. So this is my progress. Here we go. Now you can kind of see that there seems to be more fabric on this side. It does have a high-low hem, so the back there is a whole bunch of short rows to give you that, and I actually really like ready-made garments that have that. I like when the back is a little longer, so I do like this. So the back, there is my progress. You can see there, and I hope you can see the fading. I'm really pleased with how my fading is turned out so far. I am into, so the hem here was one ball of yarn, and this was like a gray, a dark gray with green. And then you can see this area here, no, this area here is my next color brought in, held together with the gray and green. So that's where you can see all these little purple flecks coming in. And then right about here, I have that second color brought in with my third color, and then I'm at the point now, no, that is a lie. So right now I'm working on the second color mixed in with the third color. So these are the colors that I am working on right now. So this is the second color here, which was the grays and greens with bits of purples. And this is my third color, which is mostly grays and purples. And that is what you are seeing at the top here. There. So that is what I'm working with. And then when I think when this runs out, I'm going to start working with just this held 2 strands together, because I'm working with fingering yarn held double to give me a worsted weight yarn. So I will do this, just 2 strands held together, and then I will go into my next color, which is going to be this. So I'm going to hold a strand of this and a strand of this, and then 2 strands of this, and then a strand of this and a strand of this, and then just this, and hopefully by the time I get to just this, I will be at the top of the sweater. I had said before how I was trying to do about 3 inches of each transition, and I thought I was just going to see how it goes, and if I need to make changes, I'll make changes. And yeah, instead of doing 3 inches, I'm doing it more by weight now, because I didn't realize that it's basically one yarn has to go through 3 transitions, by itself, mixed, and then the next one by itself and stuff. So I'm doing it kind of by weight. So I work about 30 grams by itself, and then another 30 grams, and blah, blah, blah. So whatever happens, happens. But so far, I'm liking the transition. I am liking the fabric. You see me there? Hello. It's still kind of loose. And remember how I mentioned that the original pattern used an 8mm, and I just wasn't sure if I was going to like a worsted weight on 8mm. So I'm using 6.5. You can see it is still a loose fabric. It is still a very cushy fabric. I'm pretty happy with my decision, because I don't think I would like it on an 8mm. This is, for me, this is airy enough. This is squishy and airy enough. There is a slip stitch. Can you see it there? right there. So this pattern has like faux seams where you do slip stitches. And it's a 2-row pattern. So once I got through all the short rows I will admit were kind of a pain in the butt. It's just because I had to keep referring to the pattern to see where I was going and like to get those done, and there was a fair bit of short rows. But once those short rows were done, and now I'm just working, it's 1 row all knitting all around and then 1 row of a pattern stitch. And now that I'm in that section of the pattern, and I have to do that for so many inches before I start, you know, splitting for the neckline, it's an enjoyable knit now. It wasn't unenjoyable before, but like it's easier now. So I'm hoping I can really knock this out this week. I would really love to get this done in a week. We'll see. I'm not going to promise anything, but I'm hoping. So yes, so that's my progress on that. Hopefully, maybe I'll be wearing it next week. I don't know. That would be awesome. But I'm going to need some real dedicated knitting time this week in order to get this done in a week. But whatever. So now I just have 2 more things to talk about. I have my collection, and then I have like a little bonus thing. This wasn't in the plan, but I was on Ravelry last night, and I am in the group for designers, and I very rarely post because it's mostly designers asking questions about the business and posting their designs and asking for help with photos and stuff. But they have a thread for every month where they post the new patterns that they are releasing that month. And I do like to follow along in that thread so that I can see like right away when new patterns are released. And I don't know how you guys are feeling. Like, you can comment below, let me know, but I feel like, especially now with how knitting has been growing and growing and growing, and the industry has been growing and growing and growing, it is very rare that a new pattern comes out that just grabs me and I'm like, wow, that is a unique design. Like, you know, there's always seems to be another ribbed hat, or there always seems to be like another shawl, or there always seems to be like, I'll look through this thread, I'll be like, okay, yeah, those are pretty, but it's very rare that one just jumps out and I'm like, wow. And so that happened to me last night. I was looking through the thread and this cardigan came up and it just jumped at me, and I had to go to the pattern page and check it out, and I favorited it. Now, I have no idea if I will ever knit this. I might just have to knit this because it is beautiful. I think it's called the like Satinel. I think that's how you would say it. I'm not sure. I will put a picture up. But the front is just this open cardigan, which I wear. I don't wear closed cardigans. I wear open cardigans. But it was the back. The pattern on the back was just gorgeous and unique, and I feel like when you wear it, you would just, I feel like it's something that if you wore it out, people would comment on your sweater, right? So I put it in my favorite sweater way, and I wanted to kind of do this like pattern spotlight, just because I feel like patterns like this that are just so unique you should see them, right? So I hope, let me know what you think about it, and let me know what you think about, you know, the patterns and the, you know, just the variety and what jumps out at you when you're looking at new patterns. Like, am I the only one that feels like it's just the same thing being, you know, recycled over and over again? So let me know what you think about that. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that pattern and just show you guys because I thought it was really, really beautiful. It might be one where I look for the yarn. We're kind of in show season now, not just ones I vend at, but ones that I go with my friend to shop at. It might be a sweater that I'm going to have to look for yarn for because I might need that in my wardrobe. It might have to happen. So yeah, the final thing for this episode is the collection. And last week I gave you a choice of woodland creatures or sloths. And it was a close race. I think it was just by 1 vote that the sloths won. So I did my collection around the sloths, and I love it. I love how it turned out. I think this fabric is so cute, and I'm really happy with how the yarn turned out and the colors. These yarns took a little extra time. There was lots of layering with these ones. When I started with them, I started putting the colors down. I was like, oh my god, these look like crap. But you know, you layer and you layer and you layer, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. So I'll show you the bags first, and I will have 3 of these bags. So these are the bags. What do you think? I think they're really cute with it. I love their little faces, their little happy faces. So I did a nice contrast bottom, and then I brought in a second contrast for the, you can put your stitch markers on here. Whenever you order a bag from me, it comes with stitch markers, but you can put other things on there if you want to. And then the lining fabric inside is this fabric here. So these are the bags, and I will have 3 of these. And then this week I decided to do 100 grams sock yarn skeins, and so I did 2 of those. So these are the yarns. See? You see how? That's a really good match, right? These were a lot of work, but I'm really happy with how those turned out. So I'll have 2 of these. So 100 grams, 75-25 wool nylon, superwash wool nylon. And then I did 2 sock blanks. And they are mostly, they look pretty similar. So these are the sock blanks here. So I have 2 of these. So that's the first one. And then this is the second one. So these will be up in the shop later. Those are the sock blanks. And then I have the vote for next week. I went through my fabrics, and I think both of these will make beautiful bags and yarns. So let me know what you think I should do for next week's collection. The first fabric is these moths. I love the pink and the mint and like that kind of chartreusey green together. So that's the first fabric, moths. And then the second choice are chippies, and you know I love my chippies. We have a little chipmunk that will come and eat peanuts, so I love my chippies, but they're nice pink chippies with the floral. And I think that would make really beautiful yarn as well. So that is your second choice. So let me know, moths or chipmunks? That is your choice. And I just wanted to remind you that any comments on any of my videos and any order in my shop will get you a entry every month. At the end of the month, I do a draw from comments on my videos or from purchases in my shop for a $20 coupon to use in my shop. And for May, we are already at like 65 entries. So great job, guys. So just reminding you to do that. If you wanted to comment below, any comment goes towards that draw. And that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have a lovely week and get to make everything you want to make, and you get lots of knitting time. I hope I do. I will see you again soon.